Some might say there's no point in doing much more because it's a done deal. You know, you're now damaging maybe Isle of Man PLC to some degree because this is really not playing very well outside the Isle of Man either, is it?
Well, I have been elected, Paul, by the public to ensure the good governance of the Isle of Man. If I feel that issue has been compromised, that good governance has not been in play here, then I believe it is my duty as a responsible politician to get to the bottom of it. This isn't about scoring points now. It's about clearing up the mess. It's about finding a way out for government and a way of restoring confidence back to the public and to businesses.
Okay, let's put you in his position. What would you do?
Well, first and foremost at the moment, I think that somebody somewhere we have to get to has got to give us the full story about who approached who, which department was responsible for taking this on, which department fully looked at the risk assessment, which departments and individuals briefed the Chief Minister on this, and why the Chief Minister agreed to give his signature and what was briefed, and furthermore, how this money is actually being spent and what parts of the deal are part of the payback and what parts of the deal specifically are going to be used. And then I think that in order to restore confidence, I think the government has to put its hand up and say that it has got it wrong, that it shouldn't have done this deal, that it should have let business take its natural course, that parts of that business would have been saved. And then I think that once we've established exactly which department is responsible for this, I'm afraid there's going to have to be responsibility taken at ministerial level.
What, heads to roll, you mean? Is that what you think?
As I said, I think government has made a serious error of judgment. And
are you talking about bringing the Bell government down on this? I mean,
no, I don't think it's a question of bringing the Bell government down. Okay. I think it is a question of having a sense of confidence, of public confidence, that the government is operating honestly, with transparency, with integrity, because the public confidence is going to be damaged when we find out that a company has been bunged £450,000 in a secret deal that only two or three senior ministers knew about, and when actually what should have happened was that the departmental members, so the MHKs who are on those departmental teams and they're there for a purpose, and part of that purpose is to help the minister in his day-to-day job and to help him reach his conclusions, were not informed. And to basically say that they don't trust MHKs really then questions the modus operandi that the government is undertaking.
Sorry, that was what you perceived they were saying today?
Well, basically, that's what the Treasury Minister said. He said he wouldn't inform his departmental members. I can't speak for economic development because Minister Shimon seems to be totally silent on this whole issue. But he basically said he wouldn't inform his departmental members because he effectively said he couldn't trust them because the Sefton was a PLC, and if something had leaked out, then their shares would have been effective, which quite frankly is nonsense, because the problem with that hit their deal in that £450,000 case was that the creditors and those suppliers would have probably stopped supplying the company, and that's now a danger with the current bailout.
I was going to ask you about Mr. Shimon because no questions were going his way today. I know he's been in China and he had personal reason to be off island recently, the personal matters. Is that not where you should be directing the fire from now on?
Well, we don't know, Paul, and we've been unable to ascertain, because there seems to be a wall of silence, of where this deal originated from. We accept, or I accept anyway, that it's the Sefton Group approached government, but I would like to know who in government they approached, which department decided that this was a valid case, which department undertook the due diligence, and which department and departments put this deal in front of the Chief Minister for his signature.
And trying to put some balance into this thing. I mean, most people were quiet this morning. I mean, you had Mr. Quayle, yourself, Ms. Beecroft, Mr. Karen, but everyone else was pretty quiet, and therefore you assume that they are more comfortable with it?
Stunned into silence, I should think, Paul. It's interesting that there hasn't been a huge reaction from the Council of Ministers. Obviously, Mr. Robertshaw has to take a step aside here because of his past with the Sefton Group, and I understand that, and I fully respect his position. But it's interesting that the other ministers haven't really been so vocal as to stand up and be massively in support of... but
it had to go through Coleman. I mean, at the end of the day, they, like it or not, they came up with a collective vote, I presume, on that to go forward. They have to, don't they?
This decision was something that was made clearly by the Chief Minister, the Treasury Minister, and the Minister for Economic Development, and they're the ones who took it to Coleman. So So already Council of Ministers was 3 to the good in terms of their voting. I don't know what went on inside the Council of Ministers, and in any case, Paul, I think it's really the relevant issue here is, has the government made a mistake? Even with the Council of Ministers vote, it doesn't mean to say that governments don't make mistakes, and that's why the easiest thing for the government to do is put its hands up, say they've made a mistake, say that unfortunately some of the circumstances got mixed up, and set about restoring public confidence in the use of funds, in the transparency of how public money is used, and to get some confidence back in the economic policies in terms of use of public funds.
But they can't go back, can they? I mean, the deal is done. The money is in their accounts now with the Sefton Group. You know, are you now just flogging a dead horse in that sense, or are you just baying for somebody's head?
Well, I think part of the issue, the deal has been done. There will be no going back from that. But the point is that confidence has been damaged, and we need to get some answers as to why and how this deal was progressed without any reference through to Tynwald at all. We need to understand why and on what basis the government made this assessment. And fundamentally, we're engaged in an argument. Government would argue it was to save 300 jobs. I and many, many others would argue the receiver should have taken care of that. Those jobs would have been saved and the hotels would have been saved.
I ask you again, are you looking for a resignation on this?
I think there has, and once we've established who exactly was responsible, then my view is that that particular minister or ministers would have to give serious considerations as to whether they've made a serious error of judgment and whether Tynwald felt that error of judgment was serious enough for them to resign.
So will you be asking for a resignation?
I think, as I said, Paul,
but will you? Will you go that far? I mean, how far are you going to push this?
I don't know, and we haven't had clarity as to where this deal originated from and who actually undertook the majority of the transaction. If it turns out that Economic Development have pushed this deal through, the Minister for Economic Development has been the one that's pushed this in front of the Treasury Minister and has argued the case, and the Chief Minister, and has given the full risk assessments to everybody, then yes, I think he should resign.
So you're pointing your gun at John Shiver?
No, we need the facts, John. Sorry, Paul. We need to understand the facts behind this, because we haven't had the full answers yet. I suspect what's going to have to happen at the moment is that we need a full debate in Tynwald in May, and we need some proper answers. And during that debate, and I'm sure there'll be a motion, during that debate, I'm hoping that we'll get a proper response from all the ministers involved, a proper set out of how the deal happened, and then we can argue about whether the deal was wrong, whether people have made the wrong decision, and the consequences of doing so.